All right, guys, and welcome back to Whiskey and Wolves. As per usual, my name's Evan Stewart. I'm the master trainer over at K-Pro Canine, and I've got an addition to my title set this week, but I'm going to let Chris tell you a little bit about that. And of course, with me as always is the most gorgeous Chris Lamy from Canine Coaching with Chris.
You spoil me.
I do, man. I do, but it's okay. Hey, listen, man, we're here today to debunk the bunk in dog training. And our topic for today is actually going to be how to identify stress in your dog, right? But before we do that, we've got some stuff to talk about and some thanks to give out and some other things to do. So Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So 2025 has been a big year for almost everybody, right? But us, we are no exception. We have had a big year already. Your wife has got a book out that she is just crushing and is one of my favorite things that I've ever read. If you guys have not taken a look at Shapeshifting, 100%. It is a beautiful articulation of a service woman going through some of the things that she went through. 100% recommend. Yeah. In that note, I finished my first book yesterday. I say finished. I finished my portion and actually just handed a portion to Evan to edit for me before it goes into production and publication. And I am over the moon excited about it.
Dude, congratulations on that, by the way, man. Like, I watched Heather, pour over poetry for months. You know what I mean?
It's such an intense
process right?
that until you do it, until you get through that thing. I mean, I sat in the parking lot, cried for 30 minutes after I was done. I mean, it is an intense emotional process. Yeah. But outside of me, we have something to celebrate for you as well, correct?
Yeah. So I, just this month, I guess in the end of January, I became the training director for Bayou Working Dog Club, which is the first Protection Sports Association affiliated biting sports club in Louisiana history.
Which is amazing. And maybe we can put some links down in this video.
Yeah, I'm sure
to show people what that working club looks like. Right. There is some impressive work that goes on in those clubs.
Yeah. And so, like people ask all the time, like, hey, like what makes a really great protection dog? I think PSA is a great answer to that. I wish a lot of our canines that are even working the street right now probably were a little more PSA oriented in their training. I think it'd be healthier for the dogs and the handlers.
And I've been out of that world for a while, right? I did that in the military. I did it in the Air Force for 10 years and I know that world very well. It was never my favorite, but I really enjoy coming down and watching you guys work because these dogs get so much enjoyment out of it. And that's one of the things that I think maybe gets overlooked in sport work like that, whether it's a Malinois that you have training to do bite work and protection work or a water dog, right? A GSP running. These dogs love it.
They love the work.
They would rather be doing nothing else in the entire world.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I look at dogs on the bite, like a songwriter at his craft, right? I mean, no joke. I mean, they don't want to be anywhere else. They'd rather do this than anything else. It's genetically predisposed behavior again, right? We talked about that in a previous episode, but man, they do love it.
They absolutely do. I don't know if I ever told you this, but my dog Kitty that retired from the military with me, right? She went to Afghanistan with me. Years. She was 12 years old and dislocated her hip while she was on a bite. Wow. Right? Really bad, dislocated it. Would not let go of the bite. Right. She was on it. It was a chest bite. She had my buddy up here on the big sleeve suit. Yep. And would not let go of it. Every one of us saw she was in pain and wouldn't let go till I told her to. It's heaven for them.
Yeah. And dogs are, I mean, the endorphin release, I mean, it's just really healthy psychologically for, biting, gripping dogs to be able to get that drive expression as well. So yeah, I mean, we're excited about all that over at Bayou Working Dog Club. Looking at, having, some seminars, going on with that, like really excited about that. So
that's amazing. And so to that end, we decided to do something special today for the whiskey portion, right? Yeah. You got me a beautiful gift for Christmas.
I did that, man. It's a whiskey and wolves thing,
I brought that back and I want you to open it and tell us why this is so special.
So guys, this is Johnnie Walker Blue and this is the Year of the Snake edition, right? And if I turn this around, you can just see just exactly how gorgeous this bottle is, right? And it is, Chinese calendar, Year of the Snake. What does the snake, resemble? It resembles and really, sorry, I'm working this bottle. But it really, I got it, dude. I got it. I'm in there.
I can't spill it.
Yeah, I can't help myself. But it really is about renewal, right? Really, really about, new things. from I'm a Christian, right? So like Judeo-Christianity, we would say this is new wineskins kind of an idea, right?
Shedding the skin.
Yep, shedding the skin, constantly renewing, getting better, new iterations of an old thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And man, I thought that was, I think you were dead on it, man, that was pretty appropriate for today.
I agree.
As we both have something to kind of celebrate, and it's newness in our lives. Brand new stuff. Congratulations again on this book. I was looking over it just briefly before we came in and sat down, and holy cow, man, am I excited to figure out what I can learn from my friend Chris today. So I know what I'm doing with the rest of my day after we're done with this, right?
I'm excited to hear.
Yeah. And so, that's kind of what we've got going on, man. But
I'm excited to dig into this for real.
Cheers, man. Wow, man, just on that initial nose, right? Like that is classic Johnnie Walker, man. There's so much going on there. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. I can't wait.
That tastes like elegance.
Man,
I don't know how else to describe it.
Here's what I'm going to say.
Much going on in there.
Yeah. Here's what I'm going to say is, I don't know that I'm elegant enough to give a proper breakdown on this. Seriously, man. Like
that's all I got. It's good.
It's just beautiful. And man, it feels like
it sits on your mouth for. Oh man, yeah, that's good stuff.
Oh, you know what it reminds me of? You know what that tastes like? Money.
yeah, that's about right. You're sipping on something expensive. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that is. I've had some really nice whiskeys. I've had some really nice scotches. I've had some nice bourbons. That has the name that it has for a reason, guys. It has the market position it has for a reason. If you're into whiskey at all,
really unlike anything we've had so far,
right? It's got its own flavor profile. It's very peaty in there in some places. I get some citrus and some nut in there as well. I mean, like it is really, really fantastic and complex.
Yeah, a lot going on. That's yummy.
And for especially a special edition, you're the snake edition. That's your average bottle of Johnnie Walker somewhere right in there in the 270 kind of category. This is like a 330 bottle. You know what I mean? Really, really impressive and worth the dollars.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you very much.
I bet. My honor, man. And I bet this, dude, I bet that at the end of the day, we may only drink one or two of these on the show today.
Yeah. You can't push through this.
No, we've gotten back down that road. All right, here we go. All right.
Really, really cool and important topic.
It is. It's huge, right? Because, it's funny, I think I say this often enough to clients, right? That I will laughingly coin my own phrase and say that stress is actually the most overlooked emotion in dogs, right? So when we're tending the emotional state of an animal, it's important to see the whole picture. And I think often people don't understand what they're looking at when their dog is emoting in front of them.
I agree.
And
1000%.
Yeah, that's the idea of the topic today, man. So,
and you hit on something really, really important that I don't think a lot of people understand. And I try to get this across to my clients all the time is we're not necessarily training behaviors. We are, right? Yeah. But we're training a mindset, right? We're training a healthy mindset in these dogs, and we're the stress, as you said, stress, which can lead to fear. It's one of the greatest problems. And I think far more dogs are dealing with it than most people recognize, whether they're coming from a shelter environment or not. Just because some of these signs that we're going to go through today, they're easy to overlook because they can look like something different if you don't have the eye trained for it.
Yeah. And often they're more passive, right? So this isn't the place where the dog gets up and stares you hard and growls. Or
starts growling.
You know what I mean? Yeah. That's not the place we're in today. We're in the, hey man, like you made me uncomfortable today kind of place, right? We're in that place where like, if you and I were friends and I came over and I sat in your lap at your birthday party, you might go, that was a little over the top, man. Let's maybe not do that next time. Now, if you sat in my lap, I think it would be a different reception, my friend. But I'm just saying, I mean, in general, right? Like we're in that place where we're even in good relationships, you can be honest and say, hey, I was uncomfortable with that. I didn't like that,
And for dog training, when we're bringing this to dog training, putting your dog into an uncomfortable position is not a bad thing.
No.
Right? Your dog is going to be put into places that are uncomfortable, and that's okay.
Yep.
There's a difference between good stress and bad stress, and putting them into something that's dangerous versus something that is safe but uncomfortable. And teaching your dog how to work through that is very important.
Yeah, I think coping skills, right, are massively important for dogs. There's an old quote that I heard a long time ago that basically says this, man, in today's day and age, we ask more of our dogs emotionally than we have in the previous 20,000 years. Right?
I agree with that 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The emotional intelligence that we demand, from this companion species that walks this earth next to us, I think is in some ways just unconscionable.
And we, excuse me, in addition to that, you're 100% right, but it's the expectation, right? I've heard, probably 100 times, I've owned labs my entire life. I've never had a dog like this.
Oh yeah.
Well, you've never had this lab.
Yeah. You've never had this.
You've never had this dog.
So the individuality is something that we miss in this kind of mixed up jumble of things, that come together to really drive a lot of our ignorance, our personal ignorance. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I've never, not missed a signal. I've missed signals. Absolutely. You know what I mean? I absolutely have. I think in some ways, the crux of the situation is the anthropomorphization of the animal, right? It's the root of what's going on, but that is absolutely at the base of all human psychology. You know what I mean?
Excuse me, and kind of elaborate on that, what you mean by that.
Yeah. So when we look at that as like the base of all human psychology, there's this place where we look for relatability around us all the time. So if it's got eyes that face forward and it looks like it's smiling at us.
That's why we see a man in the moon.
Yeah. It's why we see a man in the moon. It's why
we see faces in the clouds.
All the things. Yep. Absolutely. And so we're always looking for that pattern recognition. And that's why like some of the more domesticated breeds of dog are even more, how do I want to say this? They're more approachable, more likable, more preferred by a lot of people. Dogs like French bulldogs, for instance,
number one breed this year.
That have
last year.
Yeah, that have like a really flat face that looks more human, right? More baby-like, bigger eyes, bigger ears, right? Like we see those things as like being little babies, right? And then they have a mouth formation that looks like they're always smiling even when they're not. You know what I mean? And so, all those things, I think that's at the root, right? Is that, I wrote this down earlier in preparation for this, but like, I think it's the idea that people see what they want to see.
You are right. One, you don't know what you don't know what you don't know. Right. Ignorance can sound like a harsh word, but it's not. If you're ignorant about something, you just don't know it yet. Right.
Exactly.
But also to kind of elaborate from my perspective and in my terms, I think what people do is they give dogs what they want more than what they need. And so knowing what your dog needs is far more important than giving your dog what they want. Right. And it is. And you danced all around this and said it in your way. My way is again, very similar, just in a different context. But it is human nature when you see an animal creature suffering, right? What do you want to do? You want to comfort it, right? And so when you see this dog who is exhibiting some of these signs that we're talking about, we're about to go through, your natural tendency is to do what? Oh, you're okay, baby. You're fine. You're okay. And put your hands on him, pet him.
But what does that do?
But that's reinforcing the behavior.
Or the mindset, at least.
Or the mindset,
right?
Absolutely. Right. You're positively reinforcing it and inadvertently reinforcing bad behaviors and an unhealthy mindset.
Here's one of the things that people, going back to the PSA thing, here's one of the things that people don't realize that we do whenever we're training a protection dog is when that dog's got a mouthful of what we call the decoy or the person that they're biting, right? We're petting that dog.
Right.
We're loving on that dog. We're telling that dog he's fantastic for what he's doing. But even so, I mean, like we're comforting the dog in that stressful moment. We don't think that that's not stressful. We just want to comfort the dog through it and therefore reinforce the behavior.
And so, and that's a really good point, right? Is as we go through some of these things, start to think about if you can see them in your dogs, right? Yeah. And what we want to do is instead of encouraging that unhealthy mindset, always shaking, I need to calm him down. No, give him a space, let him or her work through it. And then when you see that switch, when they shake or when they yawn, right? All these are signs that they're letting that discomfort go. Yep. When you start to see them calm down and looking back at you, checking in, that's when you give them that reassurance. That's when you give them that love. That's when this is what I'm looking for. Yeah, right.
Because the neurochemicals dissipated and man, all of a sudden he's thinking clearly again. And then all
of a sudden mom or dad comes alive and it's like, oh, well, this is what you want. And it builds that healthy mindset.
Absolutely. I can't leave this alone. Hold on. Sorry.
I'm with you.
Oh man. Every time it's like something brand new. Oh my gosh. You know, that's like an everlasting gobstopper of whiskey right there, man. Holy cow. All right. So let's talk about the ways that dogs say no to us, because like that's one of the places where I think we miss out on dogs most often is when we ask a dog a question, essentially, right? And the dog says no, right? I think we miss this cue often. And for me, probably the easiest way a dog says no, and we see this all the time. I've seen it on 1,000 social media posts with children. I've seen it on 1,000 social media posts where like a baby's hugging a dog, right? Is that the dog does what? Almost every time. Yeah. Turns his head away.
Yep.
Why does he do that? Well, he's exhibiting avoidance.
It's a very polite way of saying, please don't do that.
Yeah. Like, man, you made me really uncomfortable with your presence, right? One of the things that people don't realize is that dogs don't actually really like to be hugged.
Right. There are certain ways, and every dog is different, right? Obviously. Sure. But yes, there are certain ways that dogs don't really appreciate being touched, especially if it's not from a family member.
Right.
Right. And then even if it is, I mean, we can talk about how dogs see, you know, us versus children, right? At a later time. But even kids, we really need to be careful about, because kids are naturally want to be close and in your face. And that can be very uncomfortable.
Right.
And downright scary sometimes for dogs.
100%. And you know, like dogs don't understand that, right? You know, an animal that really 99.9% of all communications body language, right?
And the problem here, and I don't know if we've addressed this, the biggest problem with missing some of these things, right? Is this is a communication. This 100% is a communication style. 100%. And so if they're not able to get their point across with that communication, what are they going to do? They're going to escalate, right? And they're going to start growling. And like, oh, you can't growl at a kid. Well, he's been talking to you this whole time and you're not listening. So he's escalating.
Right.
And then what does he have left to escalate to? But aggression, right? So it's really important to notice some of these signs early and address them at the lowest level, so that there is no reason to escalate.
100%.
And also let's think about it on from the dog's perspective too, right? If you're expecting a lot from our dogs today, we talked about that, right? We're expecting a whole lot from them. Should we not give them that same grace?
I think so. You know, I think about like this particular one, right? Like, you know, this head turn. One of the places that I see this on social media constantly, and I've seen on the street in my own experience, right? Like with, you know, thousands of client dogs that I've seen over all the years that I've been doing this, and, you know, all these things, right? Is somebody, you know, like runs up to your dog on the street, grabs them by both sides of their face and pulls their face into, you know, like pulls faces together, right? And take this for what it is. If you did that to me at a party, I'd smoke you. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. And if you were like my favorite friend, you know, like if you were Chris Lamy that ran up to me at a party, grabbed my beard and pulled me into you, chances are we're having a fight, bud. And that doesn't mean that like, hey, I don't love you. I do. That means, hey, look, you just infringed my personal space in a way that was
bodily
unexpected.
Autonomy. These dogs have bodily autonomy, and they deserve the respect of us protecting that, right? We as their leader, we are there primarily for their protection.
Yeah.
And if
I get really excited about this because
it's extremely important, and it gets overlooked so easily because again, you're telling that dog that I'm not there for you to protect you from an uncomfortable situation. That person comes up and grabs you in the face in that situation, right? Yeah. That dog automatically loses a little bit of trust in you as their leader, right?
As he should.
And so it is important to respect your dog's boundaries, especially as you get to know them and see like, oh no, he doesn't really like people getting close to him. Sydney, right? Sydney Michael. Yeah. Sydney Michael is never out when y'all are over my house. Not anymore. But there's certain dogs that just Magnolia Ann hates new dogs, right? She will not be around new dogs. So I have to respect that. It makes my life a whole lot more difficult, right? Sure. But it doesn't matter. I need to give her that respect.
Yeah. And take this for what it is, right? Like, over the last decade in, culture, broadly here in the US, right? Like we talk about the ideas of consent, right? And so looking for consent in your dog is also, I think, massively really important, And
the easiest way to do that, right? When you have new people or anything like that, let your dog come to you.
Yeah.
Right. Can I come touch your dog? No, I'm sorry. You can't.
Right.
No.
So at K-Pro, and I don't know if you guys say this over canine, coaching, but like at K-Pro, one of the things that we say often is that our training program is actually built on a canine advocacy model.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because man, I want to be a great advocate for my dog. I want to take up for my dog in places where nobody else is.
Absolutely.
I want to protect my dog.
And you do that and watch the respect you get from your dog.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Respect is everything with dogs. Huge. I mean, watch that mindset change when they know 100% that you got them.
Yeah.
Everything changes.
I used to, where we started K-Pro Canine was actually out on Amelia Island over in Florida. Right. And Amelia Island has this really cute little, and I'm going to tell this quick anecdote and we're going to talk some more about some of the signals. Right. But like has one of the cutest little downtown areas of all time. Like I think it's been there since like the late 1880s or something. I mean, like the post office, the courthouse, they're like across the street from each other on this kitschy little street. It's really super cute on Center Street in Amelia Island. If you've ever been there, it's really, really cool. Whenever I was training there and I was on the street on a regular basis, I would take my dog Phantom and I would drop him. They have these large concrete stone banisters at the post office. I would drop him on one of those bad boys on this big flat surface for him to lay and chill out, especially in the wintertime when it was cool, while I trained in the proximity of the area. And homeboy would just lay there. And some people would come over and say hi to him and some people would make him uncomfortable. And what I train my dog to do whenever he's uncomfortable is come find me, come access me. Right. And so like if somebody made him uncomfortable, I always knew I was on the same side of the road as him because like he would appear next to me and I'd be like, oh, I know it. Yep. Because that guy would literally lay there through an entire hour-long session, never need to move. And people were always so impressed by that. And I used to tell people, how'd you get your dog to do that? And I said, you know what, man, I've never set him up to fail.
Yeah.
I've never set him up and tested him too early. Like this was incrementally built over a long period of time
and consistency.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And we built trust in that place and I've never failed him. I've never gotten him hurt, in the commission of obedience, right? Obedience is just a trick.
Yep.
Like, let's not joke around, right? Obedience is just a trick. And so, I watched his signals and I made sure that he was comfortable and I did the foundation work to make sure that I wasn't seeing things that were indicative of stress. So Chris, tell us a little bit, like what are some of those things specifically?
The next one on our list is the eyes, right?
Oh yeah. Big eyes.
And this is interesting because I've even told you this before, right? In humans, when you've gone through some of the depression and real hurt that people like I have gone through, you've gone through, you don't hide that, right?
No,
you don't
walks
hide
around
it.
with you, unfortunately.
You see it. I tell Elizabeth all the time, like that guy's hurting. You can see it in his eyes. She's like, how do you see that? Well, it's there. I see it because I have it. Dogs are so obvious.
Yeah.
If you know what you're looking for, right? Their eyes are a little bit different than ours. If you can see white in your dog's eyes, they're stressed. Period.
Yeah, they're stressed
now,
out.
That being said, obviously every dog is a little different and some dogs just have naturally bigger eyes,
larger
whatever.
Eye socket, yeah,
but if you can see white in your dog's eyes, there is a very, very, very big chance that they are nervous or scared.
Yeah. Conversely, right? Like one of those calming signals in dogs, right? That you can actually use to manipulate a little dog behavior of your own. Try this out with your dog at home. If your dog seems agitated, give them a few kind of slow blinks. Keep your eyes a little bit more narrow. Give them a yawn and watch their behavior start to change.
Right. They're pack animals. They follow us. Right. So another big one that goes along with that is that panting, right? Uncontrolled panting.
Yeah,
and you mentioned it earlier. It can look like a smile. Oh, look how happy he is. That's not happy.
Right.
Right. Especially. And when we're talking about these things, you want to talk about them individually, but also in like a whole dog concept, right? Yeah. Each dog has their own particular signs. Yeah. But they're also, you also need to take the whole dog in compass. Just because they're panting doesn't mean they're scared.
Yeah.
Right. It may mean that they've been exercising. Just because their eyes are big doesn't mean they're scared, but you can start to piece these things together.
Yeah, man. But we've said this before, right? Context is king.
Yes.
You know, so like when you're reading these behaviors that we're talking about today, whether it's that head turn, those big eyes, or, you know, that panting, you have to really look at the environment around the dog, to your point, right? Like if it's 68 degrees in my house because it's wintertime, and you know, like somebody new came over and my dog's sitting on his bed panting, it's not because he's hot, guys. You know what I mean? It's because the presence of that person is stressing him out.
And this is a really, really good point that I don't think you and I have really addressed on this show yet, right? What does this, as owners, give us the opportunity to do? It gives us an opportunity to slow down and pay attention to something outside of us, outside of our stressful lives, and say, what is going on with this animal and how can I make him feel a little bit better?
Absolutely. One of the things that I've looked at owners for a long time, you know, handlers for a long time and said is, hey man, like if your dog doesn't like somebody that's coming over to your house,
there may be a reason.
There may be a reason. They know more about that person than you do, right? Like I had a dog that he was an English bulldog. His name was Ajax, right? And he was a fantastic dog, finished obedience dog, you know, did some, you know, like, you know, was working on AKC rally stuff with him even. I mean, like dog was awesome dog. He was a great dog. Like this is the kind of dog that, and this is not a joke, for a very short time while my wife was in the Navy, we rented a house on the beach in Norfolk, Virginia. And no kidding, it was right on the Chesapeake Bay. And that dog used to reach out his paw and pull open my screen door and walk in. He was that he was that kind of like, you know, kind of with it, you know, really, really cool dog. Bit one guy. We had a party, right? And this guy, funny enough, I'll remember his name for the rest of my life, only because like I've had many, many great friends with this name. And it was weird that this guy did not turn out to be my friend. You'll never guess his name, Chris. It sure was. Nice. And this particular Chris walked in my back door, and my dog bit him within 10 feet of the door. And he was like, man, that was crazy. And I'm like, I'm going to ask you to leave. And he was like, whoa. And I'm like, I'm going to ask you to leave, bud.
That's his house, not yours.
You know, well, not that, right? For me, but like if that dog bit you, whenever I've had toddlers drool on his head and climb all over him and do all kind of crazy stuff, like if that dog bit you,
yeah,
I don't want you around here, man. You know, if he was that stressed out by your presence that immediately, chances are I'm not going to like you.
And then that brings up another good point, right? I mean, you have to understand what dogs are, and that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right? Dog, you have to understand what your dog is seeing, right? They see their world so much differently than we do.
Oh yeah.
They smell everything.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. And then again, that's another topic for another day, but you have to, when we're talking about all these things, you have to understand, again, we're talking about context.
Oh yeah.
Take their context into mind as well, not just your own.
Big eyes, right? We have this clinical term of whale eye where a dog's like looking at you, giving you the hard side eye, right? Like that's probably the best way to describe it now, right? We've got that pinned ears thing, right?
And the pinned ears, again, that can be, they could be getting ready to work, right?
Yeah.
Right. Ears pinned back, they're ready to go. Or it could be stressful, right? And so you need to learn your dog and learn your particular breed, but also your particular dog. One of the ones we also have up here is yawning.
Oh yeah.
And I think that one's really interesting. Yawning and I pair that with shaking. Shake it off, right?
Man, a lot of people miss this entirely. Think the dog's tired. The dog's not tired, guys.
It's uncomfortable. That is a clear-cut sign that it's uncomfortable. A lot of times I may be a little off on this, but from my perspective, if they're yawning, that means they're kind of coming out of it, right? Rather than I'm in the thick of this, like, oh my God, I don't like this. They're kind of like, well, that was really uncomfortable, but I'm getting there.
Yeah. And I see it sometimes too, like, in the midst, like at the pinnacle of stress, right? So like, you know, you see this in social media posts sometimes where a kid goes over and hugs a dog, and in the midst of that hug, the dog yawns big, right? And I liken it to this idea. I've had some psychotherapy over the years, as it turns out, right? And one of the things I know, right? One of the things that one of the psychiatrists I was sitting with one time told me is, he goes, man, like, when you get interviewed, sometimes you get really uncomfortable. I said, oh, tell me about that. He goes, I can tell because you don't want to be here. And I said, okay, well, yeah, I don't want to be here anyway. And he is a VA psychiatrist. and he goes, yeah, but you know what you do, man, that tells me for sure is that you want to run your hand down and away from you on your, like you're trying to get it off of you. Right. And whenever I see a dog yawn in the midst of, social interaction like that, I think of that same idea where it's like, get off of me. You know what I mean? Like, oh gosh, man. And then the shake comes, right? To your point, right? Yep. Is then we go like we're shaking water off in the bath.
Yep, looks like they were wet
and they weren't wet. Right. Yep. And like those things to me are like, man, you really infringed my comfort level. You really did something to stress me out here, and yeah, man, like trembling sometimes comes on the backside of that. We see trembling though in a couple of different facets, but like this one is one of those places where we can go, yeah, that dog's not okay.
Yeah.
Right. So like you approach a dog and it begins to tremble a little bit. Right. And then oftentimes the next thing that happens is they look away. They go through this whole rigmarole for us. And many people just go, oh, but it's okay,
it
baby.
Needs me to support them. No, it wants you to back off.
And yeah. It's like, dude, you're making me really, really uncomfy right now.
And listen, and that can be tough for owners too, right? To say, hey, please back away from my dog. Right. Because again, we are, by nature, we want to help, most of us.
Yeah.
We are caring creatures. We want to make that animal feel better. And so our natural instinct is to go into comfort, but you're actually doing the exact opposite.
Right. So like you'll see those head turns, the big eyes, the pinned ears. One of the things we haven't said yet is lip licks, right? Where like, dogs do this two ways. They'll lick their own lips. Right. And they have this thing called appeasement behavior where they'll lick around your face
or another, or a higher ranking dog in the pack if you have one.
Right. And so like, when you look at a dog who runs into your house and, like wants to lick, especially like this happens in clients' homes a lot. Right. I'll come in and the dog wants to lick me all around the face. Right. That's not because the dog loves me or is excited to see me. That dog's going, hey man, please don't hurt me. Please don't
anything you tell me.
Please don't yell at me. Please don't. Yeah, absolutely. Please don't make this worse than it has to be. Like I'm running through my appeasement ritual, right? Like to try to get you to just be cool immediately. Because like I've had people come in and knee me in the chest, and I've had people come in and stroke me across the face whenever I've been too excited. I've had people come in and yell at me. I've had all kinds of experience in my life, and I'm trying to diffuse that bomb before it blows. Right. And so whenever we look at this, right, like that's one of those big things. Well, one of the next things that they often do, right, after trembling, if the stress persists, right, if the stressor stays present, is stillness.
And this is where it becomes dangerous.
It can
right?
be, yeah.
If you've ever really sat and watched a dog that became aggressive right before there's stillness.
There sure is.
Right. And everybody always said, I never saw it coming. I didn't see, he wasn't barking. He wasn't growling.
He wasn't doing anything. He was
I bet he wasn't.
Yeah.
He was steadfast and he was preparing, right? Because that's what they do is they're conserving all of that energy to protect themselves because they've been so uncomfortable and so scared that they've been pushed basically to a fight or flight response. It's not the same 100%. Thing, but I'm relatable, right?
Yeah.
And so if you get to this point, right, you really need to do something to get your dog out of that situation.
You need to leave that dog alone.
And that brings up a good point too, right? Yeah. We're talking about all these things to notice and to keep your dog out of certain situations and keep their bodily autonomy okay. But let's talk about the other side too.
Sure.
Right? You go to a vet and your dog's showing all of these things. Buddy, you still got to go to the vet, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing dangerous. There's no reason to be this stressed. There's no reason to be scared. So what are we going to do about that, right?
Sure.
I remember going to this event, right? This dog event. I don't remember what it was for. And this big old Great Dane he got scared about a loud noise and just started yanking his mom all the way across the field, right? And she was just behind him. He wasn't pulling because he was so heavy. She was just going with him.
Yeah.
And so I ran over there. I was like, whoa, hold on. I was like, if that dog pulls you into the street, you just going to let him? She's like, well, he's scared. hold your ground, right? You don't want to justify that fear. And so what I'm getting at is, yes, we need to be paying attention to these things. However, if you're not in a situation that is actually stressful or is actual scary, right? You go out into a new environment, for example, right? You don't need to, oh, my dog's scared, my dog's stressed, I can't be here. No. You sit there and you work through these and you help them self-regulate and you help them learn that new things are not scary. They're just new.
Yeah. Put them on a reinforcement schedule, at least, man, that goes, hey, whenever I, using, again, big words, right? Successive approximation. Whenever I see more of what I like than what you exhibited before, I'm going to continue to reward that into a better and better place.
And again, all you're doing is you're building that healthy mindset. You're saying, hey, look, I know you're uncomfortable, but you're okay. Right? I'm here. I'm the leader of this situation. If I'm solid, if I'm calm, then that means that you are allowed to be as well.
Right. But to your point, don't get stuck in what a lot of trainers call the cycle of fear. Right. So like my dog looks scared, so I can't take him out. So I take him home where it looks like he's comfortable and his bubble continually shrinks down until that cycle of, oh, I can't do it because like limits you only to his house. We see that all the time. And you know what? I see it more than anywhere else. German Shepherds. Oh, German Shepherds are terrible.
I love German Shepherds, right? I have one coming this month, but to your exact point, right? They go outside and he was barking, he was scared, he was this. So I just had to stop bringing him out. And so you have this dog that has all this energy mentally and physically, and you keep them inside your apartment or in your house, and they're not getting any of their needs met. And all of this just continues to build. Right.
And in the commission of doing so, you condition the mind to a reward schedule that said, when you exhibit fear, you get rewarded by the removal of whatever stressor that is. We'll take you away from that. Don't worry about that. So anytime the dog gets the least a little bit uncomfortable going forward, you go, oh, it's okay. It's okay. And you take the dog away. Right. Well, the dog never learns coping skills that way. Right. And so when the dog sees something that is entirely, to your point, innocuous, right? There's no reason for the dog to be upset by this at all. It's, a stone angel sitting on a bench. It's, a
dog statue. Sometimes dogs get weirded out by seeing something that looks like a dog but doesn't smell like it. Right.
100%.
There's no reason to be scared of that.
Or a palm frond in South Florida waving funny. You know what I mean? Like I've seen all these things freak dogs out. Right. And it's like, there was no reason for that, man. You know what I mean? And
that's a really good time to step up and teach your dog some coping mechanisms, all these things. So work through these things, wait for that shake, wait for that yawn, and wait for them to be like, all right, that sucked, but I'm better now. Then reward the hell out of it.
Oh yeah, man. Jackpot that thing, whatever you got to do. Yeah.
The more you do this, the more you put your dog into these uncomfortable, but safe situations, right? And learn and have them learn that they're okay, and they can go from being scared or stressed to, oh no, this is perfectly fine.
With that being said, though, don't throw them in the deep end of the pool either.
Agreed.
Literally,
100%. Right? Yes, absolutely. And I hope I didn't push past that. This is a process.
Yeah, I'm talking about, but definitely a process. And one of the things, like I'll give you, for instance, like whenever I say the deep end of the pool, I mean it. I had a client some years ago that said, you know what, man, I really want my dog to learn to swim. And I said, okay, we'll work on that next time. Like, I've got a process, right? And they went, oh, no problem. Right. And halfway through the week, I got a text that was like, I don't think he actually likes the water. And I was like, oh, what did you do?
What did you do?
You impatient fool. What did you do? Right. And I said pretty much just that. What did you do? Right. And the answer came back, well, we just kind of tossed him in the pool. Right. And I'm like, bro, are you kidding?
That was rude.
With no swimming lessons? With like no swimming lessons, no nothing, like no structure around that at all. Like you just come on, help me out. Right. And so like, there are ways to help dogs get a little easier with water, and some dogs will never, right? Some of our shepherd breeds, like that Mal I got, right? Or one of the two, right? Like that dude's like, smells like fish pee in there. You know what I mean? I'm not doing anything with that. Right. And you know what, dude, like I'm cool with that, pond water, he's cool with going into his ankles to get a drink. That's what he's got. You know what I mean? I've
noticed a lot of dogs that if they can walk in like on a lake or river, if they can walk in, it's a little bit easier, but yeah, I mean, if your dog just absolutely hates it, sorry, you don't have a dog that swims with you.
That's part of our protocol, right? Is a lot of those clients, it's been a fad for like 20 years now to have one of those like sun decks in your pool. Yeah. You know what I mean? You know how cool those are for teaching dogs to swim? Of course you do, you know? And so like start incrementally and work into these things. That's the big deal. And remember this, guys, like, you know, again, in order to hear your dog, right, you've got to be looking. You know, you've got to constantly be looking and analyzing their body language, because their body language is how they're communicating.
Absolutely.
Like 100% of the time, dogs are communicating in body language.
And they are communicating to you, and whether you know it or not, you are communicating to them.
Yeah. And one of the things that I tell people all the time is like, even when your dog's not training, they are. Or when you're not training your dog's training, right? Like your dog's looking at all those micro kind of expressions of behavior on you and learning what those mean in real time. One of the things that we're seeing, right, is that you know, there's new scientific research that's coming out now, and guys, go look this stuff up, like the Stanford, you know, study on you know, canine manipulation of language and all these things that are happening right now. We're starting to think that dogs are even a little bit more cognitively developed than we gave them credit for, you know, whenever we thought we gave them a lot of credit at being like 3 years old. I'm
still amazed weekly, daily at the cognitive capabilities of these dogs. I really am. Yeah.
And when you spend a lot of time with them, you start going, nah, man, there's something else going on in there.
A lot more.
This is not simply a controlled response to a stimulus. There's some other stuff going on.
And let's take a little caveat to that too, right? Think about all that you just said. Yeah. Think about everything he just said, and think about what we stand to learn from these creatures.
Oh yeah.
Right. We are teaching these dogs a whole lot of things, and we expect a lot of things from these dogs. But guess what? This is a two-way street, and that dog or dogs you have living with you has a lot that you can learn from.
Man, look at their responses to unexpected things, right? You know, like they may initially get startled, but oftentimes their actual response to something unexpected is curiosity. Couldn't we all learn a little bit from that? You know, like, hey, that was, wow, I was surprised by that. And instead of being afraid or recoiling or
upset,
right? Go, why did that happen? You know, like curiosity over fear 8 days a week, right? There's a Whitman quote in there somewhere, you know, but seriously, right? Like curious, not judgmental, you know?
Playful,
you know,
loyal, patience. I mean, they have so much to teach us. For sure.
And, you know, we can only learn if we're listening, right? But in order to listen to our dogs, we've got to listen with our eyes. And that's one of the things I tell people all the time too, is if your dog's actually making vocalization, there's something really wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? Barking is like, hey, there's something really wrong in the environment. Unless they're
a husky or or but
some dogs are massive vocal, right?
Some dogs just like to hear themselves talk.
Yeah, but you're correct. Large,
yes.
Yeah, by and large, you know, even in those dogs, I would make a simple argument that that's a learned behavior for attention, right? It's attention seeking behavior,
and it gets behavior. Yeah. Excuse me, it gets the attention. Yeah,
but like a dog who you know tried that out a couple times, it got ignored, never went back to it. You know, which is most of the dogs that you know we live with. Right. You know, they try that shit and we're like, that's not how, buddy, that's not how you get me. Right. Like, let me show you some other cool ways to do it. More, you know, replacement behaviors, whole 9 yards. But in this instance, right, like what I'm trying to say is for the average dog owner out there, if your dog is making, you know, like barking or whining or howling or growling, whatever those vocalizations are, it's because there's something really wrong and you've missed head turns and big eyes and pinned ears and lip licks and yawning and shaking and trembling and panting and stillness and shrinking and all these things that dogs do, right?
And it just means you need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. And you need to really pay attention to what your dog wants from you instead of what you want from your dog. Because one of the things that I see really, really often are owners who almost willfully run over all of these signals, knowing what they are for their own like benefit, right? For their own feeling of, well, I put my dog in a friggin' tutu and tossed him in a baby stroller and that made me healthy somehow. Don't know how that works. Yeah. You know?
Well, in addition to that, you're not wrong, but also we are busy, right? Oh, yeah. And we push past these things just because, no, I got to get to work. You're missing you're missing a whole lot. Yeah, you're making your dog uncomfortable and you're missing an opportunity. You're missing opportunities.
The number of owners I've looked at and said, man, what would it cost you to go to bed half an hour earlier and get up half an hour,
just plan.
Get up half an hour earlier.
I tell my clients all the time, especially with dogs like Aussies, right? Yeah. Or high energy dogs. You need a plan. You need to project or plan every single day for how you're going to get your dog mental and physical stimulation.
Yeah.
Every single day.
And take it for what it is, right? Like, with that being said, there, I just heard it in my ear because like I've lived with lots of these people in my life where it's like, well, sleeping into me is important. Well, why is that important? Right? It's important because we assign this value of like luxury to it, right? Where like, working people have to get up early, and rich people get to lay around all day, and like, that's just not true.
It's not true.
Where your economy of sleep is up to you, I think.
And I think to the point, change can be difficult, right? For human beings, especially, and dogs, but change is difficult. One of my favorite quotes, I think you'll like this, I heard recently, is change is painful in the beginning, messy in the middle, and beautiful in the end. So change is not easy, but it is well worth it. Have you ever seen a sunrise? They're amazing.
Yeah.
Wake up early, go see one, right? Yeah. Take your dog out to the beach and see the sunrise. I promise you it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
And then go take a nap.
You'll not regret it. Yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? You'll not regret it. And that's one of the things, like changing some of our mindsets around what the structure is that we were raised with, right? Like, at least here in the United States, we have this really Germanic kind of educational system that, brought us out of bed wicked early in the morning to produce the proletariat, the workers of our nation, right? Like, all these things are honest, right? But when we look at this, right, the acknowledgement that we are the masters of our own destiny by and large, right? And if you don't have to be to work till 10 o'clock that day, that doesn't mean that you have to sleep until 9:45. Right. You know what I mean? Like you have the mastery over what you do when you do it, right? So say you're working a 10 to 7 shift somewhere, right? Like chances are you're not going to bed till like 11 o'clock, right? So like, if you still get up at 6:30, you're not missing anything. As a matter of fact, you just gave yourself a gift of time back in your life instead of sleeping through it. When we sleep, we time travel by and large, right? Like I'm not even sure where we are, I don't think that I'm about to go down a rabbit hole, man, but I don't think I'm in my body. But,
we'll have a whole episode on that.
Because I'm gone. You know what I mean? I'm not present. I'm not affecting my agency on the world, like I'm somewhere else, I think. And so, like just, think about what your dog needs, look with your eyes, hear with your eyes, pay attention to those signals, and really reduce a lot of stress in your life entirely but when we miss these things, oftentimes the result of missing out on diffusing stress is more stress.
100%. That's exactly what I was going to say. By missing these things, you're making your life more stressful.
Absolutely. So,
and take this responsibility seriously, right? Take this relationship seriously, the same way you do with your child, right? I take my responsibility as a father very seriously. I enjoy my role as a father, but I have responsibilities. It's the same way as with dogs.
Man, and more these days, huh?
And you take that responsibility seriously and take that relationship seriously because that dog is counting on you for a whole lot.
For everything.
And they're giving you way more than we may be giving them credit for.
Take it for what it is, man. I think, professional trainers are probably the only ones that their dog turns a coin, right? I mean, like, I'll tell you that my dogs make money for me. It's not a joke. I mean, they go to work with me. They're my partner in what we do. We make great money because, we have dogs that are, able to exhibit our skill sets. You know what I mean? And so like your dog really, for private trainer, professional trainers rather, like, our dogs are probably the only ones that are turning a coin for us. Everybody else, they're legitimately like just beholden to you for everything.
Yep.
Everything, so.
And if you give that dog everything that they need, I promise you, they're going to give you what you want.
The depth of relationship on the backside of a well-fulfilled canine is, deeper than the Marianas Trench. I'm telling you right now, your relationship is going to be transformational.
And everybody that has had that experience is sitting there shaking their head right now.
Absolutely.
Right? Everybody that has had that one dog, like, yep, I remember.
Yep. And like a lot of people call that, that was my heart dog.
My once in a lifetime dog.
Yeah. My once in a lifetime dog, my heart time, my heart dog, those dogs that just speak into our soul because we took the time to connect with them at that level. Right. So, guys, hey, listen, I think that's about it on this
Good
one,
show.
Don't you?
Yeah. I love it.
Hey, guys, listen, thanks for joining us here on Whiskey and Wolves again. Evan and Chris, always here to debunk the bunk in dog training and help you guys understand your dogs better. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, follow, do all those things. There's buttons at the bottom that you should be, hitting for me, please. Comment for us.
Let us know what you want to hear.
And let us know more what you want to hear. We're walking down some of those paths already. Tony, you're out there, dude. Thanks for all that stuff, man. Like, I'm told you're an awesome dude, man. So like,
I can't wait for you to meet him.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But like, some of our folks out there, man, like, thank you as always for listening. Chris, congratulations again on your book, man. I'm really pumped to dig into that thing and read it. Guys, look for that later this year, probably on shelves. We'll keep you in the loop as that editing process continues to play out, and man, let you know where to get that thing. We mentioned Heather's book earlier. I'm going to do that again. It's Shapeshifting by Heather Stewart.
Unbelievable.
That's available, Ingram Press, everywhere books are sold. Feel free to look that bad boy up and take a look. I think it sells right at like $17.99. If you want a really unique perspective, to Chris's point on, a female in the service that's, just walked through dealing with all the things that they had to deal with. Right. Really kind of interesting ideas there. Really beautiful poetry. I'm biased. She's my wife, but like, God, I love her. And other than that, guys, we'll see you next time right here on Whiskey and Wolves. Cheers, my friend.
My man.